James Carter was a man who blended into the background of Chicago's busy streets. At 52, he wore faded jeans, a worn jacket, and scuff boots, carrying a backpack that looked like it had seen better days. To most, he appeared homeless, just another face in the crowded city that often ignored its downtrodden. But James was no beggar. With a net worth of over $80 million, he was a tech mogul turned philanthropist, living modestly by choice to stay connected to the struggles he'd known in his youth. His wealth came from a cybersecurity firm he founded in the 1990s, sold for $120 million in 2010, and his quiet generosity had funded shelters, schools, and food banks across the city. The incident that changed everything happened on a cold November afternoon near Michigan Avenue, a bustling hub of shoppers and professionals. A group of 5 teenagers, Ethan, Mia, Tyler, Sophia, and Liam, seniors at a private high school in an affluent suburb, were looking for trouble after school. They spotted James on a bench, sipping coffee from a paper cup, his backpack beside him. To them, he was an easy target, someone to mock for a quick thrill. Ethan, the group's unofficial leader, strode over, his friends trailing behind, phones ready to capture the moment. "Hey, old man, got any change for us rich kids?" Ethan said, smirking. His friends laughed, egging him on. James looked up, his face calm but lined with years of experience. "I'm just having my coffee, guys," he said, his voice steady. Ethan, sensing no pushback, kicked James's backpack, spilling its contents: a few books, a water bottle, a worn notebook. "Pick that up, beggar," he taunted. Mia, filming on her phone, added, "Bet he's got nothing but trash in there." Tyler gave James a light shove, not enough to injure but enough to humiliate, while Sophia and Liam laughed nervously, glancing at the growing number of passers-by who averted their eyes. James's life had prepared him for moments like this. Born to a factory worker and a nurse in a struggling Chicago neighborhood, he'd grown up knowing hardship. As a teenager, he taught himself coding on a library computer, eventually earning a scholarship to college. There, he developed an encryption algorithm that became the backbone of his company, SecureNet Solutions. By his 30s, he was a multimillionaire, but he never forgot his roots. After selling the company, he moved into a modest apartment, donating millions anonymously to causes he cared about. His tattered clothes were a deliberate choice, a way to walk among the people he helped without drawing attention. The teenagers didn't know any of this. They saw a target, not a man with a purpose. As they continued their taunts, a black SUV pulled up to the curb. A man in a suit, Tom, stepped out and approached James. "Mr. Carter, your meeting with the foundation board is in 20 minutes. Shall I take your bag?" The teenagers froze. Ethan's smirk vanished. "Wait, what?" he stammered. James stood, brushing off his jacket, and said, "No need, Tom. I've got it." He gathered his belongings, looked at the group, and added, "You kids might want to think twice before judging someone." Tom was James's assistant, accustomed to his boss's unorthodox lifestyle. The SUV, a discreet luxury vehicle, was one of the few indulgences James allowed for convenience. Its arrival, combined with James's quiet authority, left the teenager speechless. Mia's phone dropped to her side. The recording stopped. A small crowd had gathered, and a street vendor who recognized James called out, "That's James Carter, man. He funds half the shelters in the city." Another bystander, a woman waiting for a bus, nodded. "I've seen him hand out food to folks around here. He's no beggar." The truth hit the teenagers like a wave. Ethan tried to recover, muttering, "We didn't mean anything by it." But James didn't lash out. "You've got a lot to learn about respect," he said. "Maybe start by helping someone instead of kicking them down." He climbed into the SUV, and it drove off, leaving the group in stunned silence. The crowd dispersed, but not before a bystander filmed the tail end of the encounter, capturing James's words and the teenager's shame. The video spread like wildfire online, posted with the caption, "Teens Mock Beggar," who turns out to be a millionaire. It racked up thousands of views within hours. Local news outlets picked up the story, interviewing the vendor, who shared how James regularly bought sandwiches for the homeless and paid for school supplies for kids in need. He's out here every week, just helping, the vendor said. Those kids picked the wrong guy to mess with. The story painted James as a quiet hero, and the teenagers as reckless bullies who'd misjudged a man based on his appearance. The fallout was swift. Ethan's parents, prominent lawyers, were mortified when they saw the video. They grounded him for a month and enrolled him in a volunteer program at a soup kitchen, hoping to teach him humility. Mia, who had posted the original video, deleted her social media accounts after receiving hundreds of critical messages. Tyler, Sophia, and Liam faced suspensions from their high school, where the principal called their actions a violation of our values. The school mandated that all 5 attend a community service program focused on homelessness and systemic inequality, where they heard stories from people who'd been judged the way they judged James. James, true to his nature, didn't seek attention or retribution. He declined interviews, telling a reporter who tracked him down, "It's not about me. It's about what we do for each other." He met privately with the teenagers' parents, suggesting they use the incident as a teaching moment. "Kids make mistakes," he said. "What matters is what they do next." He continued his work, funding a new youth mentorship program through his foundation, aimed at helping teens from underserved communities develop skills and confidence. The incident became a turning point for the teenagers. Ethan, initially defiant, began to change after working at the soup kitchen, where he met people who shared their struggles. "I didn't know," he later told a counselor. "I thought it was just a joke." Mia, shaken by the public backlash, wrote a private apology letter to James, which he accepted graciously. Tyler, Sophia, and Liam completed their community service, with Sophia later volunteering at a shelter on her own, inspired by the story she heard. James's story resonated beyond Chicago. The viral video sparked conversations about compassion and the dangers of snap judgments. Community groups used it as a case study in workshops, and schools incorporated it into discussions about empathy. James, unaware of much of the buzz, continued his routine, walking the streets, talking to those in need, and funding projects quietly. He replaced his tattered backpack with another used one, sticking to his principle of living simply. The teenagers carried the lesson forward in different ways. Ethan pursued a career in social work, driven by a desire to make amends. Mia became an advocate for online kindness, speaking at her school about the impact of social media. Tyler, Sophia, and Liam stayed out of the spotlight, but privately vowed to think twice before judging others. Their parents, initially embarrassed, grew proud of their growth, though they never forgot the sting of that day. James's humility and generosity became a local legend, a reminder that true wealth isn't in appearances but in actions. The vendor who spoke up for him received a surprise donation to expand his small business, with a note that read, "Keep looking out for people. G." The city, in its own way, became a little kinder, inspired by a man who chose to walk among the overlooked. Years later, Ethan ran into James at a community event. Nervous, he thanked him for not pressing charges. James smiled. "You're doing better now. That's what counts." Ethan walked away, knowing he'd been given a second chance by a man he'd once mocked. The story of that day lived on, a testament to the power of humility and the shock of truth in the face of prejudice. Continuing to expand with detailed backstories, dialogues, and reflections to reach approximately 5,000 words. James's early life shaped his perspective. Born in a struggling neighborhood, he watched his parents work tirelessly, his father at a factory, his mother as a nurse. Money was tight, and James often wore hand-me-downs, enduring taunts from classmates. He found refuge in the library, teaching himself to code on outdated computers. By college, his skills caught the eye of a professor who connected him with investors. Instead of chasing quick fame, James built SecureNet solutions methodically, focusing on quality over flash. The sale in 2010 gave him freedom, but he chose to live as he always had. Simply, purposefully. The teenagers came from a different world. Ethan, the son of lawyers, grew up with privilege but felt pressure to prove himself. Mia, a cheerleader, thrived on social media attention, always chasing likes. Tyler, Sophia, and Liam followed Ethan's lead, seeking approval in their tight-knit group. Their school, known for academic excellence, had a culture of entitlement that their parents busy with careers, often overlooked. The day they targeted James, they were bored, restless, and looking for a way to feel powerful. Before the incident, James was a familiar face to locals. He'd buy coffee from the same vendor, chat with the homeless, and slip donations to community centers. He's like a guardian angel, a shelter worker once said. But to strangers, his appearance screamed poverty, a stark contrast to his bank account. He liked it that way. It let him see people's true colors. The confrontation wasn't the first time James had been misjudged. A year earlier, a store clerk had followed him, assuming he'd steal. James paid for his items and left a $100 tip, saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover." The clerk never forgot it. But the teenager's actions were bolder, fueled by group dynamics and the safety of the